Well, it is the big game Sunday, but it's not super because the Packers aren't
Or
in
the
it.
Bears, actually.
Despite the fact that these lesser teams are playing today, we can't wait for the festivities to start. So good morning, everyone, and welcome to the first part of your big game Sunday. We are so glad that you're here. My name is James.
Yeah, this is so fun. As you can see behind us, all the volunteers today wore jerseys and eye paint. What a great way to start the week. Good morning, everyone. My name is Nina.
Yeah, and we are not alone, Nina.
Yeah.
Decked out in her own gear, hanging out in the chat this morning is Jess. So good morning to you. And if you're new to the channel, every week when we go live, you will always be greeted by one of our on-air hosts, or two of our on-air hosts here in the studio, and one of our chat hosts hanging out with you all service long.
So I know my family, when we watch service at home, we watch on TV. So if you want to be engaging with Jess, you're going to want to grab your phone or your computer, and you can be hanging out with her and the online community this morning.
That is a great idea. Well, we're going to talk more about the big game today in a second, but let's talk a little bit about what's happening here in service. So if you're new, every week we have an incredible live music experience. It's awesome no matter where you're watching from. And we also get an update today from what our youth group has been up to. They spent last weekend at Winter Jam. I can't wait to hear about that.
Winter Jam sounds amazing if you remove the winter part. My version of a Winter Jam is me wrapped up in a blanket, but I'm sure the students had a great time. And speaking of wrapping up, today we're wrapping up our series Better. Now, not to worry, if you are here for the first time, you don't have to have watched the previous parts to be ready for today's message, but I would highly recommend you go back and listen to the other portions of this series as they have been super helpful. We've covered off on a lot of the topics that tend to be the most common New Year's resolutions. And today it's all about finance.
Yeah, the Better series is just about making 2024 the best year yet. So for you and your family. So today, as Nina said, it's all about finances. We know that finances can be a constant stress for many of us. And what I loved about this entire series is that, one, we're walking away with practical applications, but we also have some resources for you as well.
Yeah, it's so great. And I know that I've enjoyed the resource page on our website. Our staff did an amazing job of getting extra resources put together that we can use really all year long. So you can see those on the QR code, or Jess is going to put another link in the chat for you.
Yeah, so all right, it is the big game Sunday. We're covered in our favorite team apparel. So I have a question for Nina, and I have a question for everybody in the chat. Who are you cheering for today? Are you cheering for the game, the commercials, the halftime show, or are you just there rooting for Taylor Swift?
Yeah, so our family is a sports-loving family, so we are very excited for this day. Maybe not as excited as we are for opening day of baseball, which is only 46 days away, but who's counting?
46 days.
So I have a strange affinity to the Chiefs. I'm not really sure why, so I guess I'm cheering for them, but honestly, I just hope it's an exciting game, and I cannot wait for the commercials. Now, I just have to figure out how to keep everyone in my house quiet so I can actually hear them.
Well, since the Packers aren't in it, I'm just here to cheer for points. I want to see one team win 50-51. I think that'd be awesome. But I also just love the commercials, so drop your answers in the chat.
Yeah, and if you're new to the channel, welcome. We are so glad you are here. If you have fun today and you want to hang out with us next week, it's so easy to do that. Just hit the subscribe button. You will get notified when we go live. And not to mention, you'll get updates on posts that we make all week long.
Yeah, and if you are ready to take that next step and you want to connect with us, meaning you want somebody from Hope Church to connect with you later this week, you're going to want to type the word new in the chat, and Jess will send you a link to our Connect card so we can find out how to connect with you.
Yeah.
But we'd love to hear your story. Plus, we're going to send you a thank you gift to all of our new viewers, because you're giving us an hour of your time today.
Yeah. And so, James, can we see if anyone's answered your question in the chat?
Yeah, let's see what we got going on here in the chat. I got one for Chiefs, one for the halftime show.
All right.
All right. Very cool.
Usher. Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. Love that. That's so good.
So, actually, we did ask this on social media earlier this week, and I have to give a shout-out to somebody that said that they were just excited for the Kitten Bowl.
Yes.
Which I've heard of the Puppy Bowl. I didn't know
there was a Kitten Bowl, so we may have to check that out. So we have just a little bit more time here with you before our tech team takes you in the auditorium. James, anything else we need to know today?
Yeah, that's a great question. If you've not yet, be sure to scan this QR code. It's a page we've made for all of you watching at home. It's got today's message notes, the Bible app. It's got links to all of our socials and links to next steps that you might be interested in taking that you hear about as we're going there in the auditorium.
Yeah. Well, I think they're just about ready for us, so we are going to...
apparently they let anyone into the auditorium.
Wait, everyone's welcome here.
Morning, everybody. Welcome. Whether you're watching online or in the room, it's so good to be able to worship God together. We make this the house of the Lord ourselves. So why don't we stand up? We're going to start our morning singing and praising God for who He is and what He's done. Let's sing together.
The God who is, we worship the God who evermore will be. He opened the prison doors, He parted the raging sea. My God, He holds the victory. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today, and we won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place, and we won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. We sing to the God who heals. We sing to the God who saves. We sing to the God who always makes a way. 'Cause He hung up on that cross, then He rose up from that grave. My God, still rolling stones away. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today, and we won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place, and we won't be quiet. We shout out your praise.
We've got so many reasons to be joyful. Let's sing.
We were the beggars, now we're royalty. We were the prisoners, now we're running free. We are forgiven, accepted, redeemed by His grace. Let the house of the Lord sing praise. Yeah, we were the beggars, now we're royalty. We were the prisoners, now we're running free. We are forgiven, accepted, redeemed by His grace. Let the house of the Lord sing praise. Come on, let's sing it out. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today, and we won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place, and we won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today, and we won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place, and we won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. We shout out your praise.
And there's so many good reasons to celebrate and have joy. And we want to talk about one of those with you. So why don't you have a seat?
All right. Good morning, Hope Church. My name is Ty Smith. I am the youth pastor here on staff, and I'm so excited to share with you guys what the students were up to last weekend. You see, we went on our annual winter retreat. We went up to Silver Birch Ranch, which is about 3.5 hours north of here, and we actually got to enjoy some snow, which was crazy since it feels more like spring than it is winter right now. But we got to go do tubing, we got to go horseback riding, broom ball, zip lining, all these amazing things. It was an awesome trip. But I think one of the cool parts was actually what we got to talk about during a large group this whole weekend. We were talking about this thing called wisdom and how to apply it to our lives. So if you know a student who went on this trip, ask them, what have you slawed recently? There's like a little movement with it too. But what have you slawed recently? And they will light up and be able to tell you what they learned and actually what that means. But the really cool part is actually coming back on Sunday and hearing about what students were saying on Monday, where they were like, man, I wish I was just back at camp. I wish I could get this experience again. I can't wait until next year. Even having students come back and say, man, I'm thinking about being a pastor after coming on a trip like this, which is amazing to hear. But this trip and so many other trips that we can go on are only done because of the generosity of so many of you here at Hope. We were able to bring 40 students at a reasonable cost for this trip, as well as supplying scholarships for students who might not be able to pay for a trip like this. And that's done because of your generosity. And I want to say thank you for that. And the students, thank you for that as well. So if you're here today and you would like to help financially support the mission here at Hope, scan the QR code in front of you. If you are online, make sure you click that link in the chat. And if you have something with you in person, put it in the black boxes as you head out of the auditorium today. So truly thank you for trips like this. And on that note, let's stand back up and continue singing a few more songs.
That's right. We are going to celebrate who God is and what He has done. He is working in us and through us in our students' lives. And we just want to be able to continue to join together, pointing on all of the grace and goodness that God has for us. So let's sing.
My sin and penalty. At the cross you took my place, with your grace on top of grace. Lord, how you've loved me, I don't deserve grace on top of grace. More than I've asked for, more than I'm worth, grace on top of grace. Well, hallelujah, I am free from my sin and penalty. At the cross you took my place, with your grace on top of grace, with your grace on top of grace. How sweet the sound, once lost, now found. Heaven came down and grace rescued me. How sweet the sound, once lost, now found. Heaven came down and grace rescued me. Well, hallelujah, I am free from my sin and penalty. At the cross you took my place, with your grace on top of grace. Well, hallelujah, I am free from my sin and penalty. At the cross you took my place, with your grace on top of grace. With your grace on top of grace. Yeah, with your grace on top of grace.
Before I spoke a word, you were singing over me. You have been so, so good to me. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. You have been so, so kind to me. And oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. And I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it. Still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. When I was your foe, still your love fought for me. You have been so, so good to me. When I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. 'Cause you're so kind. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it. Still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. No wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. good. He never stops chasing after us, never stops loving us. Why don't you guys have a seat?
We all know that money talks, but what if money could sing? What would your money be singing?
What would your money be singing?
Maybe something like this, huh? You feel good. Knew that you would now. You feel good. Knew that you would now. It's so good, so good. You got me.
Nice. Well, my money would probably be very self-assured. It knows its purpose. It'd be singing something like, well, we are living in a material world, and I am a material girl. You know that we are living in a material world, and I am a material girl. Or dollar bill.
It's important to know who you are.
I
You know,
guess
be
so.
honest about it. Just be real. But you know, how many of us have bank accounts that are singing something a little more like this? Okay. Help, I need somebody help. Not just anybody help. You know I need someone help.
That's good. Yeah, my bank account looks at me and sings something like this normally. I don't know what you want from me, because the more money we talk about, the more problems we see.
More money, more problems,
More
man.
money,
That's
more
legit,
problems.
right? All right, but how many of us? Okay, we don't have more money, and our budget is something a little more like this. Oh, halfway there. Oh, living on a prayer. Take my hand, make it, I swear. Oh, living on a prayer.
That's good. If your money could sing, what song would it sing? Tell the person next to you, tell us in the chat what song your money would sing. My money would probably sing, never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down. Yes, I think my money would rickroll me. That's my conclusion. Well, hey, today we are wrapping up our series, Better, and this has been such a fun series to teach through, because we're not just learning how to make this year better than last year, we're learning how to be better at life, and we've been tackling very important and practical topics like better work and better health and better parenting. Well, today I'm going to wrap up this series by talking about better finances. Now, I know that when you woke up this morning, you thought to yourself, when I go to church today, I really hope the preacher talks about money in church. And in fact, if he could at some point try to leverage guilt to manipulate me to give to the church, that would be the cherry on my sundae. I know, it's like I'm a mind reader. No, today is not about give to the church. You're not going to hear me say give to the church, and there's going to be certainly no manipulation using guilt or any other tools. Today is truly about better finances, and the reason why we included this in the series is because your finances are a central part of your life. You spend more of your adult life on earning money, spending money, investing money, saving money, planning for money than you do anything else in your adult life. This is so central that if you don't get finances right, you're going to struggle flourishing in life. That's why we're talking about better finances, because you've probably noticed that when you have financial struggles, challenges, worries, stress, problems, you notice how those don't stay neatly compact in the financial category of your life. Financial worries and stress overspill into other areas of your life, like your marriage, or your mental health, or your physical health, or your ability to get a good night's sleep. Now, by the way, if that's you, if you're in a place where you've noticed that financial challenges are overflowing into other areas of life, we want to come alongside of you and help you beyond this sermon. So if that's you, I want you to know that coming up in early March, we're starting Financial Peace University. This is a nationally used program to help people get better at finances so we can deal with and eliminate those money problems, because if we get money right, it is one of the keys to human flourishing. But today, we're just going to talk about one aspect of better finances. Now, you would think that as Americans, we would already have a handle on this, because one of the great things about living in America is that from sea to shining sea, we have more resources, more technology, more opportunity, more wealth, more possessions than any people on planet Earth. You have more opportunities to generate more wealth than people living in any other superpower or any other region on Earth. You have more opportunity than anyone living in the European Union or in China or any Asian country or South America or Africa. We have this amazing amount of resources as Americans. In fact, I imagine that people from other parts of the world would look at us and say, how in the world could you have stress when it comes to money? You're America. How in the world could you have problems when it comes to money? You guys are Americans, and here's the reason why. Capitalism and living in a capitalistic culture, capitalism is amazing at generating wealth, but it is poor at connecting the dots between your finances and joy, between your finances and flourishing, thriving, satisfaction. And today, we're going to read something that Jesus taught in a parable that connects those dots for us. Now, the parable we read today, it was originally taught to an ancient culture, which was poor. It was, people that were oppressed by the Romans. It was subsistence living. Yet, you would think that Jesus was teaching this parable to those of us living in modern America. I don't know if there's a parable that hits Americans like the way that this one does. Now, if you're new to the Bible, a parable is simply a story that Jesus told to help us see something from God's perspective. Now, one time, we're going to be in Luke chapter 12, Jesus was preaching this sermon. In fact, the entire chapter of the Bible is a sermon that Jesus preached, and right in the middle of the sermon, somebody has the audacity to interrupt him while he's in the sermon, okay? But Jesus is such a masterful teacher, he actually takes the interruption and leverages it to make his point, and then he keeps right on going. It's a master class in live public speaking. But we're going to see in this parable something that is critical for us to get a handle on. And if you lean into the idea that Jesus taught, you will experience better finances. So today we are in Luke chapter 12. Here's how it begins. Someone in the crowd said to him, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." So again, if you look at the first 12 verses of this chapter, Jesus is preaching a sermon, and then someone interrupts. This would be like someone this morning in the fifth row, all of a sudden standing up, waving his hand and saying, "Excuse me, Jason, hey, listen, loved that dad joke you had. That was great. But listen, let's talk about me, okay? I want you to solve a problem for me. Tell my brother to give me what I deserve." Now, Jesus, he doesn't seem to be offended by the interruption, but he is greatly concerned about the attitude of this man. Now, we don't know anything about him. We don't know if his claim was legitimate or not. We don't know if his brother was right there in the audience with him. Awkward. But Jesus does see something in this man's attitude that concerns him. And what he sees in his attitude is this: I deserve it. My brother has something that I deserve, and he's not giving me what I deserve. Now, our culture teaches us to live with this attitude, this thought, this feeling of I deserve it. Okay, think about some of the ads that we see. The ads that we see when there's a luxury car or fine fashion or something that's a great experience, the message of the advertising is, you deserve this. You deserve a car like this. You deserve an experience like this. And that connects with us because we think to yourself, you know what? I do work hard. I am underappreciated. I do deserve that. We look at things we don't have yet and say, yes, I deserve that. And we definitely experience around what you already have. When you look at your current money and possessions, we definitely think, I deserve this. Now, since we're heading into an election year, there's a conservative and a liberal version of I deserve this. Pay attention to some of the messaging that you hear, because it's the same attitude on different platforms. See, people on the left say things like, well, we should help the poor. Well, how are we going to pay for that? Well, tax the rich. See, they don't deserve what they have, but don't tax me. I deserve what I've earned, okay? Then there's a right-leaning version of that says, if the poor are in need, I feel bad, but they should do what I did and work hard and earn a good living because I deserve what I have. I worked for it. And then our libertarian friends come in and say, well, don't tax me. Taxes are theft. I deserve what I have. Now, I know you're thinking, okay, you got the other two parties right, but you were unfair to my party, okay? Granted. Except the libertarians. You guys really believe taxes are theft. Anyway, if you look, and some of you just thought, huh. And you made a note to Google libertarianism after church because maybe you're going to switch sides this election season. But what's beneath all of that, and this is just rooted in our American capitalistic culture, again, great at generating wealth, but it's driven by this underlying attitude. I deserve it. If there's something out there I don't have yet, maybe I deserve that. And if I do have it, I definitely deserve it. Well, this man comes to Jesus, interrupts his sermon, and what's driving him is there's something that I deserve, but I'm not getting it. Jesus, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me. So Jesus says, I will acknowledge your request. Jesus replied, man, who appointed me a judge or an arbiter between you? Do I look like the probate court to you? Did you see a sign outside my door that said probate court? Do you know why? It's because I'm not the probate court. In translation, what does this problem have to do with my kingdom? My kingdom with values of the first will be last and the last will be first. What does this have to do with what matters to me? But since you brought it up, I'm going to use you as an object lesson so everybody in the audience today can learn an important lesson when it comes to this attitude of I deserve it. Verse 14. Then he said to them, watch out, be on your guard. 2 warnings. Watch out, be on your guard against all kinds of greed. To which we say, how many kinds of greed are there? Because here's what we think. We think there's one kind of greed. We think there's the Ebenezer Scrooge kind of greed, where you're heartless, you don't care about people, and if they starve, that's their problem. You just hoard everything that you have for yourself. That's what we think of when we say greed. Well, that certainly is one kind of greed, but Jesus is going to warn them about a very different kind of greed. He says, watch out, be on your guard against all the kinds of greed. And now he's going to tell us which kind of greed he sees in this man and his audience, and he's going to tell a parable about. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions. To which we say, I know that. I know that the quality of my life does not equal the abundance of my possessions. I know the amount of dollars that I have is not equal to the quality of my life. I know that what I drive and what I wear and the level of quality of vacations I go on has no bearing on how important I am or how valuable my life is or the quality of life I can live. I know that. We would all say, I know that. But Jesus says, are you living in a way? Are you living in a way that believes that the abundance of your possessions is equal to, linked to, the quality of your life. Here's a test. We look at things we don't have, and when you do that, do you think to yourself, I wonder how I could get that? And so you sit down and you look at your finances, you say, well, I could move this over here, or I could move that over there, or you decide I'm going to finance it, or I'm going to put it on credit, and then I'll make these payments, and I think I can afford the monthly payments, and you do all this work to figure out how you can acquire something that you want, but then someone comes along and says, hey, we've got this really worthy cause that's going to help a lot of people, and your first reaction is, oh, I can't afford that. God would say, really? Because you just spent 3 hours trying to figure out how to get something you can't afford, but when someone comes along and says, here's something where a little money would go a long way, you're like, yeah, I just don't have the money for it right now. That is living as if the amount of possessions you can accumulate is equal to the quality of your life. So Jesus said, watch out, be on your guard. There is a kind of greed that equates your life with the volume of your possessions and wealth. So he's going to teach on this idea today. Verse 16. And he told them this parable. Again, a parable is a story Jesus tells to illustrate something from God's perspective. It's not real, it's a made-up story, but it makes a point. Here's the parable. The ground of a certain rich man yielded an abundant harvest. Now, when that happens, everyone in his audience instantly knew two things would have been true about this guy. Number one, this guy worked hard. Okay, if you have an abundant harvest and you bring it in, that means you worked from sun up to sundown all season long. You don't get any days off. And the second thing they knew is this guy got lucky, because the conditions had to be just right to get a bumper crop in those days. You had to have just the right amount of rain, just the right amount of sunshine, just the right temperature in order to have a great bumper crop. Both were true at the same time. You see, this guy, he could have worked his tail off, but still have the wrong conditions. He could have worked his tail off into a drought, and at the end of the season, he could have been destitute and on the brink of starvation. But here's a guy, a certain rich man, who had an abundant harvest. So he thought to himself, what shall I do? I have no place to store my crops. And people are now leaning in because they want to be this guy. I would love to have this problem. You're telling me I've got so much wealth I can't even store it all? That's awesome. That's the goal for many of us, but Jesus, of course, is setting this guy up as a warning to us. So we keep reading. Then he said, this is what I'll do. I will tear down my barns and build bigger ones, and there I will store my surplus grain. Now, here's a guy who's already rich at the beginning of the story, and much like our world, the rich get richer. And now this man suddenly has surplus. He has extra wealth. He already had wealth. Now he has extra wealth, which means that the rest of the parable, just to be clear, only applies to people who have extra wealth. If you do not have any extra wealth, what comes next does not apply to you. You're off the hook today. So the question is, do you have extra wealth? Okay, let's figure this out. If you have ever walked into your closet and you thought to yourself, I wonder what I should wear today, you have extra. You have choices when it comes to the clothes you wear. That's extra. And if you have ever asked, where do you want to go out tonight? You have options. You can choose wherever you want to go and eat. You have extra. And if you've said, which car are we taking? You have extra. You have more than one car. That's an astonishing amount of wealth. If you have ever traded in something that worked for a newer version of something that works, in fact, your old one worked so well, someone said, we're going to pay you money for your old one because it still has so much value, so you can upgrade to a new one. That means that you have extra. If you have ever leveraged tax planning, you have extra. If you have ever started your day in your sleeping clothes and then put on your work or your school clothes and then put on your workout or exercise clothes and then you put on some lounging clothes and then you put on some date clothes, in other words, if you have ever changed clothes in the middle of your day, you have extra. And that's awesome. There's no guilt in having extra. There is no shame in having extra. You did not decide, I think I'll be born in America. I think I'll live in the 21st century. That just happened by God's providence. But the reality is, like this man, unless you don't have those things, then you don't have extra. You don't have to do anything else that comes today. This is only for people who have extra. And this man in the parable, he realizes, I have extra wealth. Here's my plan for my surplus grain. I'll tear down my barns. I'll build bigger barns, the rest of his plan, and I'll say to myself, you have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take life easy. Eat, drink, and be merry. Now, in America, we call this retirement. We assume retirement is in the future. By the way, if you assume you're going to retire someday, you have extra. Because there was no retirement in that generation. Nobody retired. This guy made it. This guy achieved the financial dream. He's going to quit working, and he's going to take life easy, and he's going to eat, drink, and be merry. Now, he's quickly put together a rock-solid financial plan. Let's review his financial plan. Step 1, harvest bumper crop. Step 2, build bigger barns. Step 3, achieve financial independence. Step 4, eat, drink, and be merry. Step 5, remember to not die. Now, this is a solid plan. Now, I know that we have some financial planners and advisors in the church. This is not copyrighted. You can use this with your clients if you want to, because this is so good. It's bulletproof, but it overlooks one very small detail. And the detail is in the next 2 words of the parable. But God. See, he overlooked that piece of his financial plan. If you notice in the parable, it's a monologue. There's only one character, and he only talks to himself. He's not seeking wisdom. He's not gathering counsel. He's just talking to himself. What shall I do with all of my surplus grain? And he never considers why God made the perfect conditions happen for him to become wealthy. He never considers what the purpose of this extra wealth is from God's perspective. He never considers what God thinks about all of this. But God said to him, "You fool." Fool? We're trying to achieve his life. What do you mean, fool? That's what we want for ourselves. What do you mean, you fool? You fool, this very night, your life will be demanded from you. It's like, God, are you kidding me? Have you seen how much money I have? I can't run out of time. Look how much money I have saved up. You're telling me I'm going to run out of time before I run out of money? And listen, we live in America. That's our reality. For most of us, we are going to run out of time before we run out of money. You fool, this very night your life will be demanded from you. Then, who will get what you have prepared for yourself? Answer? Someone else. Not because he was generous and gave it away, but because he was greedy and tried to keep all of it for himself, and he left it all behind. Here's the conclusion. This is how it will be. Total loss a total waste. This is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves, but is not rich toward God. Now, in a few minutes, we're going to resume Jesus' sermon in Luke 12 because he's going to share with us what it means to be rich toward God. She's like, how can I be rich toward God? But I want you to see the main point that Jesus is establishing through the teaching of this parable. Here's the big idea. Your extra wealth is not for yourself. Your extra wealth is not for yourself. The purpose of the extra, from God's perspective, is to be rich toward God. It is to acknowledge, yes, you worked hard with the conditions that God provided for you. See, if this guy in the parable had lived through a drought, I bet he would have blamed God for the bad conditions. But when the conditions were right for him to make money, he doesn't give God credit. He thinks the purpose of the extra is for himself. Your extra wealth is not from yourself. And we need to replace our attitude or our belief or our assumption of I deserve it with something new. I've been entrusted with it, and I'm accountable for it. I've been entrusted with this, and I'm accountable for what I've been entrusted with. So before I get to what it means to be rich toward God, I don't want to let this quickly slip by without you doing a little self-diagnostic test to figure out whether you need to watch out for this kind of greed. Because it's insidious. It is so hard to recognize this in the mirror. But if you don't, if you continue to live with the American attitude, I deserve it, I'm entitled to it, it's mine, without recognizing I've been entrusted with it and I'm accountable for it, there will be a point when you recognize you are foolish. Now, I don't think you're foolish. Jesus says you're foolish. And you will either recognize that now to your advantage and change, or you will recognize it on the day you die when it's too late. So here's the diagnostic test. All you need is a pen and a piece of paper, maybe a calculator if you went into theology like I did and you can't do basic math. And this is just for you. Don't show this to anybody, okay? You keep this hidden. This is so you can figure out if Jesus might call you a fool. Here's the test. What does your money say about you? Step one, how much do you earn? Use a month. And don't even include how many taxes are withheld. What's your just paycheck? What do you get paid on a monthly basis? Maybe you want to do it on an annual basis, whatever is easiest for you. Then step two is how much do you give away? How much do you give away to the causes, the organizations, the people, the things, the problems in this world that break God's heart, and your resources, your financial resources can make the world a better place? Now, providing for your adult children is a different category. That's taking care of your family. How much of your money is released for blessing people in our broken world that matter to God? Okay? Third, what's the percentage? Now, I know it involves dividing one of these numbers against the other. I went into theology. I can't figure that out, but maybe you can. What's the percentage? How much do you give away versus how much you earn? And when you do, again, don't show me, don't show anybody else. Here's the question to wrestle with. What story is your money telling? Or what song is your money singing? What an impartial third party who doesn't even know you, all they get is they get to see a copy of your financial statement. They've never seen you. They don't know your name. They just see the numbers. Would that person reach the conclusion that you live as if the abundance of your possessions is equal to the quality of your life? Or more importantly, would Jesus say, looking at your numbers, would Jesus say, you fool? I think you owe it to yourself to figure out the answer to that question now, not on the day you die. Now, what does this mean to be rich toward God? He kind of deals with this man. I think he sat down after that. And he continues. Here's what happens in verse 32. Do not be afraid, little flock, for your Father has been pleased to give you the kingdom. Now, he totally mixes his metaphors here, but he's Jesus. He can do that. He says, do not be afraid. Let's go back. Little flock. Do you know why? Because there's something in you, there's something in me that as soon as we talk about generosity, there's something in you and something in me that when we leave the attitude of I deserve it and instead embrace, no, I'm entrusted and I'm accountable, there's something in us, this fear that rises up. For some of us, it's a fear rooted in insecurity. Will I be safe? Will I be secure? Will I be okay if I actually practice generosity in my life? For others of us, it's fear of missing out. Oh, I won't be able to do this. I won't be able to do that. See, that we're still in the grip of I deserve it. And Jesus knew that. So he says, little flock. Which, again, that's lost on us, but in their generation, they had shepherds, they had sheep, and the flock needed so much care and guidance from a patient shepherd. And the metaphor mixing comes in when he says, your Father has been pleased to give you the kingdom. Now, this was before the days when weird rich people leave their fortunes to their pets, okay? This is a metaphor where Jesus is saying, your Father is the king. And the entire kingdom belonging to our Father, he has been pleased to give to you. There is an inheritance waiting for you in heaven. Now imagine that you know a young man, say he's 23 years old. And this young man has inherited a trust fund that he takes full ownership of and control of when he turns 25. $40 million in this trust fund. And as you're talking to him, do you know what he starts doing? He starts complaining to you about how tight things are financially. It's rough making ends meet these days. Now, if this 23-year-old young man who's set to inherit this trust fund at age 25 complains to you about how hard it is to make ends meet, what are you going to say to him? Nothing. You're going to slap him. That's what you're going to do. Are you kidding me? In 2 years, you're inheriting $40 million. I think you can hold it together for 2 years. That's what you would think. You'd probably be friendlier because you're hoping something comes your way, but that's what you would be thinking. What does God think? What does Jesus think when he looks at us and he says, little flock, your Father has been pleased to give you the kingdom. Resurrected life is waiting for you. You will take full possession of it. See, he doesn't slap us. He's tender. He says, I know you can be afraid around this topic. Don't be afraid. See the big picture. See reality. Your Father has been pleased to give you the kingdom. So use this short time to do something good in our world. Here's what he suggests. Here's what it looks like to be rich toward God. Sell your extra, we might say, possessions and give to the poor. Provide purses for yourself. This is, what contains their money. You can say wallet, satchel, man bag, all the same thing. Provide purses for yourself that will not wear out. A treasure in heaven that will never fail, where no thief comes near and no moth destroys, for where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Imagine that you lived in the South in the time of the Civil War. And imagine that all of your wealth is stored up in Confederate currency. And imagine that you know that the war is coming to an end and the Confederacy will lose to the Union. What would you do with all of your Confederate currency if you knew that was the reality? You would convert it into something that has lasting value. You would buy gold, you would buy land, you would buy commodities, something that after this war will have lasting value. Jesus is saying, you see your stack of dollars, you see your possessions, you know what? That currency is about to be reduced to a value of 0. So what if while you still have the opportunity, you converted your currency into something that has lasting value? What if we converted our extra currency into something that does the work of God in our generation? That changes people's lives, that changes people's eternal destinations. That's what Jesus is inviting us into. You see, that's better finances because that's the kind of investing that will yield an eternal harvest in God's kingdom. Have no fear, little flock. Your Father has been pleased. It is his delight to give you his kingdom. So let's be rich toward God. Let's convert our wealth into something that matters, and you will have better finances. Let's pray. Father in heaven, I know that when it comes to finances, I know that in a room like this, with an audience like this, we are in all kinds of different places when it comes to our financial realities. Holy Spirit, I pray that you will work in the hearts of everyone, that we don't see this as a burden, we don't see this as guilt, we see this as your loving invitation to have something to show for our lives, as a loving invitation to store up treasure in heaven, as a loving invitation to trust you and delight in our true wealth, our true inheritance, our true joy with you in heaven. Give us the humility, give us the wisdom, give us the courage to call out what is true in our lives today, and the eyes to see what is to come, so that we will follow you boldly into a future where our lives are free from all kinds of greed, so that we can be better with the wealth you've entrusted to us. May many lives and eternities be changed from the generosity of these people. Amen.
Why don't we stand together? I'd rather have Jesus than silver or gold. I'd rather be his than have riches untold. I'd rather have Jesus than houses or land. Yes, I'd rather be led by his nail-pierced hand than to be the king of a vast domain and be held in sin's dread away. I'd rather have Jesus than anything this world affords today. I'd rather have Jesus than worldly applause. I'd rather be faithful to his dear cause. I'd rather have Jesus than worldwide fame. I'd rather be true to his holy name than to be the king of a vast domain and be held in sin's dreads away. who's rich in mercy, who has grace on top of grace for us, and who has an overabundance of love that never runs out. It's amazing.
Nothing but Jesus, just give me Jesus. Nothing that's good in this world lasts forever. Nothing that's good in this world lasts forever. Nothing but Jesus, just give me Jesus. Nothing that's good in this world lasts forever. Nothing that's good in this world lasts forever. Nothing but Jesus, just give me Jesus. Nothing that's good in this world lasts forever. Nothing that's good in this world lasts forever. Nothing but Jesus, just give me Jesus. Nothing that's good in this world lasts forever. Nothing that's good in this world lasts forever. Don't wanna be the king of the last domain, be held in sin's stripped away. You're the one I want to live my life on a rock that will not shake. Nothing but Jesus, just give me Jesus. Nothing that's good in this world lasts forever. Nothing that's good in this world lasts forever. Nothing but Jesus, just give me Jesus. Nothing that's good in this world lasts forever. Nothing that's good in this world lasts forever. Nothing but Jesus, just give me Jesus. Nothing that's good in this world lasts forever. Nothing that's good in this world lasts forever.
Just you, Jesus. There's nothing else in this world that is like you, nothing that lasts. Everything fades, but you and your love remain forever and ever and ever. Help us to be aware of and to hold on to that love. It's in your name that we pray. Just thank you so much for joining us today. If you need prayer for anything at all, we'll have somebody up here to the left of the stage if you're in the room to pray with. If you're online, just type prayer in the chat. Next week, we're going to be beginning our brand new series, Malevolent, where we'll be talking about and exploring all of the different aspects of sin and where that shows up in our lives. So come back next week. But for today, enjoy your Super Bowl or Kitten Bowl or Puppy Bowl Sunday. It's going to be great. We'll see you next week.
Well, hey, everyone. Thanks again for making today such a super... All right, I'll stop. Thank you again for being here, though. We had such a great time hanging out with all of you, and we would love to do it again next week. So be sure, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you can join us for that new series, Malevolent. But you can also hang out with us all week long just by following us on social media. We're very active on especially Facebook and Instagram, and all of our handles are the same, at Hope Lake Country. But that's it for all of us here today. Enjoy the big game later tonight. We will see you guys next week.